This is maybe part two. I don't know how I'm going to. Probably this is going to be part two. So yeah, I also need to check if my microphone is okay. So yeah, let's just begin.
into the relations between Piltover and Zahn. Considering that Vi was essentially our follow-along character, kind of, having her be the one to provide all this commentary was a good sign for Arcane's leftist politics. It also helped that Vi was so different than her League counterpart, who, from my understanding, is, or at least was at some point, just police brutality personified. That they made all of these changes to her seemed to indicate that perhaps this show would be giving a take on her character much more steeped in political commentary. Next is Echo's entire character. Now, Little Man actually is a revolutionary, a collectivist. Echo's firelights are as much vigilantes as they are almost a mutual aid
Right, we
commune of
were here.
sorts. Echo has the will to fight for his people and will put aside his own reservations if it means guaranteeing their safety. He also reads Caitlin for filth, which is always a plus. He criticizes both Silco and the Enforcers slash Piltover, and like Savika, he is a character that is clearly interested in the well-being of Zahn. Then there was Caitlin. Her arc in season
Huh!
1 was essentially that of a privileged person becoming an ally to a struggle of the marginalized, and many speculated that season 2 would see her go to the next level of allyship.
I remember, I think, ending the previous video with saying that she did not know the lore. And I also didn't know the lore, but I didn't complain because that was kind of logical for her to do this.
Which could have entailed many things, each its own shade of leftist. Caitlin utilizing political power, her abandoning the enforcers, her becoming sheriff and reforming the enforcers. This last one would be centrist, but let's just say center-left. These are just a few examples, but the general idea is that Caitlin seemed to be going down the path of a character who would play a critical role in Zahn gaining an equal treatment, independence, and or liberation. And then how about Silco? In season 1, Silco was a very nuanced character. On the surface, Silco appears to have some radical revolutionary ideas, wanting independence for Zahn. The problem is that with the portrayal of him we're shown, his fight against Piltover is born out of hatred, not love for his own people.
His fight with Piltover is not built only from a hatred of Piltover, but mainly for the well-being of Zone as a state, not as people. This is what fascism is like.
That is why he could so easily oppress his own people and poison them with Shimmer. Kind of. I'll talk about Shimmer more later. He wants to be in control of the same oppressive system, or at least recreate it in Zahn. He is not for true liberation. This is the leftist.
No, he doesn't want to. I mean, he doesn't really want to recreate it. This is like a great irony that he hates Piltover, yet he's like Piltover. This is what I love about Arcane. So yeah. But he loves Zone. I already told you. Okay, I already told that, right?
Interpretation of his character, a cautionary tale about why revolutionary politics are necessarily born out of love, not hate. And this interpretation fits quite nicely into the way that Vander's character was also interpreted by leftists, because Vander could also be interpreted as a cautionary tale, a tragic character. Vander also used to be a revolutionary, but when the people he cared about died because of the riot on the bridge, leaving 2 kids orphaned, he abandoned the hope that things could change in his grief and self-blame. He internalized the idea that the world they live in is a fixed thing, that the problems in his life are his fault, not Piltover's, and that submitting to Piltover is better than trying to fight against it.
This was like the last argument I did on my first that did not record. This I'm sorry. What? She sounds like some Zononite fascist that just wants Zone to be independent for like nothing. What about Vi? She was like pro Vander for like the entire show. She was literally mini Vander. She literally just followed his goal. Okay, maybe she cared more about the family than Zon, but she still cared for Zon. She still had the political views of Vander. So, well, Iva is your favorite character. You know what I'm insinuating, right? You know what I'm saying?
His motives are understandable, but in the end, he is a revolutionary turned liberal. He represents
Liberal. Sorry. And it's also not like they oppressed the zone. Like they did not oppress zone because they didn't. Well, if Piltover gets attacked, like Zona Knight cannot steal from Piltovan or just kill Piltovan because Piltover does the same did was doing the same to Zone and was doing. I don't mean that they were doing this at that time where Vander was in charge, but they were doing before that. Yeah. It's still quite unjustifiable, you know, what the enforcers do later. I mean, what Marcus does, because remember, it was Marcus just getting out of control, kind of like Vi, Powder, and Clagor and Milo. Um, so yeah, just
someone who is broken by Piltover's oppression of him and his people, at least in the leftist interpretation of his character.
I'm sorry, I hate leftist interpretation of this character. Then, despite me being leftist, so I don't know what the fuck are you talking about. Maybe I'm just different shade of leftist because I hate. I already told you that, but I hate when people confuse socialism with leftism. No, sorry, not socialism. Marxism with leftism. All Marxists are leftists, but not all leftists are Marxist. Get over it.
So, in short, it was very easy to interpret Arcane Season 1 as a leftist or left-leaning show. It presented itself that way, right?
Yup. Right. Right.
Well, I find that the answer to that question is both yes and no. Before I get into that, though, let's discuss how Season 2 portrays the situation between Zahn and Piltover. Well, I guess the first thing I can say is that it does so.
So yeah, this is the part where I did not reach before, like ended, and then the recording just got destroyed.
Shittily whenever it bothers to at all. I know that, you know that, we all know that. But let me
No, we don't.
actually be serious for a second and give a somewhat brief summary as to what goes down. Season 2 begins with the direct aftermath of Jinx's attack against the Council. Piltover is not happy, and we get to see lots and lots of prejudice towards Zonites, including from Caitlyn, as this attack has now changed the trajectory of her character arc from what many of us predicted it would be.
Okay, if you predicted her character arc will go this way, then I'm sorry, but you're just stupid. Because you didn't even need to know the lore. I did not know the lore, and like it was still reasonable to think that this would be her reaction. Like, no shit, bro.
More on that later. Once Caitlyn's squad starts pursuing Jinx, because Caitlyn is a Kiraman, she has access to the vents in the Undercity,
Oh.
allowing her squad to use the Grey, aka
Now it's going to be another argument about how using the gray as well, then against Vice more and just I already debunked that, so just let me.
A gas weapon against the Undercity. So far, Season 2 is very consistent about the power differential between Zahn
Kill me.
and Piltover. The first big shift in this dynamic, at least kind of, comes at the end of Episode 3, when Piltover goes under martial law, with Caitlyn at the helm and Mbessa Medarda, a military general, serving as support. I say
No. Okay, so I know this was a very short episode, but I have dinner. Action. Okay, hello. I'm still eating the dinner, and I hope that there is a feature that I can put off the part when I was, eating it in the other room. So I don't know will this go into the video or not, or will this video be published, and then I would have to do everything all over. Okay, better not to think about it. I want to have an orange to eat, so let's just continue.
kind of when it comes to this shift in dynamic, since as we already saw with Vi, the civil liberties of Zonites already have a history of being ignored. But anyway, so yes, Piltover goes under martial law with the purpose of keeping the city safe and under control, a fancy way of saying let's oppress Zon harder. Episode 4, which takes place after an unspecified time skip of at least a few months, establishes that the Enforcers and Noxus forces are actively occupying Zon, complete with civilian/security checkpoints meant to monitor the movement of Zonites. We also see the suspension of civilian legal processes in action, as in this episode, Enforcers mass arrest Zonites attending a rally, including at least one 7-year-old child, sending them all to Stillwater. Stillwater is
First of all, is Isha's like 7? Because I don't know. And second of all, the Noxus was mainly responsible for the worst parts of the occupation. Um, if Caitlyn was there, she probably wouldn't arrest a 7-year-old. Or what do you think is 7-year-old? Because we don't know her age. I don't know. Maybe she has access to sources that I don't have, and I don't wanna check it right now. So yeah, the Noxus was mainly responsible for this torturing. Caitlyn even sorry. Caitlyn even criticizes Noxus and has, just bad things about this. Questions its authority. This is the word I was looking for. So yeah.
largely the same prison as we remember it in Season 1, except that Caitlyn has apparently banned the use of the lower levels that are devoid of light, the kinds of quote-unquote inhumane cells that Vi was kept in during her 7
Dla kogo? Dlaczego? Co to robi? Ten głos jakby się kończy. Arcane was always centrist, even. Kuba, oni konfuzują marksizm z lewicą. Wiesz. Właśnie, Kuba, a może nie dać po te chipsy? A co? Nie mamy chipsy. Znaczy wiesz, dwa były na oglądanie, a dwa na wigilię presową. No dobra, to są. Okay, so my brother is officially, I don't know how to call it. I told him what I was doing because, yeah. Alright, we were talking in Polish because this is our first language. I always want to say it. I am not a Pole, I just speak Polish. I'm a European. This is how much left wing I am. I hope you could hear me. I hope. So yeah. Uh, I told him that what is the main flaw of the video, and that is that she confuses Marxism with leftism. Which, I hate where Marxists think that they are the only left wing out there. Just so annoying. Alright, the actual argument. Um, I know this doesn't really. I mean, no, this kind of debunks something. You don't know that was Vi really put there. You don't know. You don't know that. So yeah, let's just continue. I probably shouldn't, you know, talk while eating an orange because now almost its juice is just um suffocated me to death.
7-year stint. Episode 4 also has Jinx and Savika interact with an enforcer who is terribly incompetent in a scene that brings to mind MCU humor.
Fuck you. Like this is she steals from this guy. I hate this. Oh no, the guy that I debunked. The guy that said that the relation between Jinx and Sulko was romantic. And I get this impulse. Like the joke was that what were the chances that Jinx show up? I also would not believe that Jinx would just give to me like that. I really they needed to make some humor of that, so instead of arresting her or something, she would do this anyway. So yeah.
Episode 6 marks the end of Caitlyn and Mbessa's partnership, and Episode 8 appears to be the actual end of the martial law. Episode 8 is also when the dynamic between Zahn and Piltover becomes something much different than what we've been shown throughout the entire show. Because of the amassing forces against them, Piltover, or Jace really, pleads with Zahn to help them fight against Mbessa and Victor. At first, the two Zahnites invited to this discussion, Savika and Scar, essentially say fuck that and leave, demonstrating the bad blood between the two regions. But through a montage, we see that not every Zahnite feels the same, and a decently sized group of Zahnites cross the bridge and come to Piltover's aid. We are not told why they do this, other than some implications that seeing the enforcers being nice to them for once influences them in some way.
Fuck no. The world was ending. You know, the world was fucking ending. If the world was ending, you would also band with some, I don't know, North Korean to save the fucking world. This is like, when this one US and North Korean ships just banded together to destroy some Somali pirates. This is this type shit. The world was ending. Like, what could I say? There's this guy that goes out from his family, and then why did he do this? Because he had family to protect. Because if they didn't, this family would fucking die. This is why they. This is so pathetic, to be honest. Like, if she actually paid attention, no, if she even watched it, because I honestly can't believe that if you watch the show, you can use that argument and people will actually fucking believe you.
Oh, and then once the battle gets started, the rest of Zahn shows up to help at the 11th hour because bananas. So things
Because there is no reason, like, like the world was just end. I don't know, man. Like, what am I even? Okay, so we need to find an example. Think of an example. World War Two. Germany attacked the Soviet Union. And then what should do the US? not support the Soviet Union because they are communist. Well, no, the US should support the Soviet Union because it knows that if it falls, then the US falls. I know that US wouldn't fall, but you know what I mean. They know that if they fall, if Piltover falls, Noxus would probably then go to Zone, and Victor would just turn everybody into robots, into hive mind. Just shut up.
Between Piltover and Zahn are good enough for Zahn to fight for Piltover, risking their lives. When Piltover has
They don't fight for Piltover. They fight for Zone. And also after that, Piltover starts respecting Zone, so it was kind of worth it in the end. And besides from ending the whole world.
offered them exactly nothing in return. I'm trying not to be snarky, but I don't see how I can't be. And then, of course, there is the final resolution of the show, shown in episode 9. After the war with Ambessa and Victor's forces, we see that Zahn gets nothing but a single seat on the council, filled by Savika. That's it. No independence that we know of, no reparations, not even a guarantee that there will be no enforcers on their streets.
Okay, I'm gonna tell it to you. Where would they show this? Because I think that Riot really just told them to cut, or they just decided to cut most of the last episode. And by cut, I mean that they didn't have made scenes. They just cut the I don't know. They just the thing that you write on where people speak. I can't pull out English, so sorry. Um, I remember that I remembered how it was named. But anyway, they just cut it. So then, because they didn't have time, you know, and they did it like 50 minutes long, which was still like much, was still like 10 minutes more than any other Arcane episode. So yeah, and we are also shown how the two cities can exist together. Yeah, and it's heavily implied. Like I don't know what does she mean, but do you think? Do you honestly think that this is where they would go? That Piltover still oppresses Zone? Like no. You guess why? Because this is the actual resolution of the show. I know that Sevika getting one seat is just a stupid idea. I get it. I know they should add Echo or Vi or even both of them. But still, it implies that the two cities made peace. And also, it's not implied that Sevika cannot cannot just block all the legislation in the EU if just Sevika says this, so the whole legislation is blocked. It's not implied. This is just a high level of argument.
It's possible that the show wants us to believe that Zahn has essentially been given the same deal that Silco had gotten at the end of season 1, where Zahn gets free trade routes, blanket amnesty, and unrestricted access to the Hex Gates, if they're even still operating, just leaving out the part where that deal also outlines Zahn's independence. But season 2, episode 9 did not bother showing us that.
Because they did not have time. Oh my god! You know what would be more important? Even if they had this time, they would spend to show time bomb. To show more of Jinx and Echo. They wouldn't spend it on you, or maybe teasing out Noxus season 3. Arcane season 3 Noxus. Not some, because this is, oh my god.
So the only thing we know for sure is that Zahn has one seat on the council, a seat that will always be outvoted and potentially just voted out the way that Heimerdinger was.
What the hell is even that?
Can you even call this a reformist ending at this point? The ending also implies, given the whole putting differences aside thing, that Zahn and Piltover are entering a new era of peace between the cities. That this peace is entirely unfounded is apparently not a concern of Arcane's.
What do you mean? I don't know what she means by that, so let's just continue.
Now, Season 2's ending is dog shit for more reasons than I can count, at least half of them having to do with my children, Vi and Echo, but whatever the hell this is has got to be one of the biggest. It's an utter mockery of the conflict set up in the very first scene of the very first episode.
Yes, we all should kill each other. Let's just fucking execute everyone in Piltover. I know that's not what she's saying and that I'm over exaggerating what she's saying, but this is like Silco type fascism.
Except, maybe it isn't. See, there is a reason why we got all this tonal whiplash between Season 1 and Season 2. There is a reason why Season 1 portrayed the Enforcers as a dangerous, corrupt force, while Season 2 portrayed them as incompetent and kind and misled, though Season 1 also did this last one too. There is a reason why the Council is relevant in Season 1 and not in Season 2. There is a reason why war between Piltover and Zahn seems inevitable in Season 1 and easily resolved in Season 2. It is because this was always the end goal. We were never going to see a Zahnite revolution, we were never going to see an independent Zahn, we were never going to see abolition. And yes, each of these were crack dreams for a piece of Western media, but
No! Oh my god! Just get over it! What you're saying is not communism, is not leftism, it's fascism. It's Zonite fascism. This is what it is. In Silco's deal, it's not Zone that is oppressed, it's Piltover and Zone, because you know. This is what it is. And I think this is like the message of the show. Not to have revolution. That Vander was good actually because he didn't want a revolution. He wanted peace. And this is what I think is most leftist about it. Not that we need a revolution to overthrow, like, you know, to just execute Donald Trump or any other. We need peace. We need it peaceful. We don't need border between Zone and Piltover. Borders are like very right wing thing. They they make prejudices. We need unity. We need to accept each other. We need diversity. This is what left wing is about. And talking about revolution is just seeing how much the modern Marxists are obsessed with just the idea of killing rich people. Then they don't really see that the whole message of the show is the opposite, and it still manages to be left wing.
I know people had hope that we'd see them. I personally figured that we'd see, at the very least, equal representation for Zahnites on the council.
Yeah, I would also do that. So yeah, this is probably this is a mistake. All right, I get it. Like, still, it's kind of wrong on the message. She's